Welcome to episode 6 of Oscar's 10 Years, or The Adventures of Oscar, Eric and Susanne. We're at the boarding school in Moonfall Island, which is where we were at the end of the last episode. Eric's having a chat with Eloise. Some of the Sims are wearing their outdoor outfits because it's winter and they've just come inside. Little Susanne is there with the yellow top on, and Oscar is sitting down there reading. You can hardly see him at the moment, but he's there right in the centre of the screen. I've got a visitor. She was originally Ella, but now she's Eloise when I turned her into a mermaid. The original Ella I made back in 2009. She was going to be a babysitter for Patience, but she did that job for a while and then she moved out and started her own life. Very entertaining sim to play. Now, Isabel has got to continue on her journey around the worlds looking for Gregg Craig's parents. And she got up the coast to Ambonay, where she found some Sims that she wanted to take to Lunar Lakes. And then she came home to Moonfall Island. So now she's got to continue on. And the next world in the list is Dark Harbour. I have added this base camp to Dark Harbour, and the world was made by Reflong 7. Now this has been my main world for the MacDuff story, and this game is used for 2 series, the MacDuff story and Oscar's childhood, and now Oscar's 10 years. And it's been used a lot. Looks like that's got witches in that house. Whenever I send a sim to a world, they travel there, and the travelling takes a while. So when they arrive, I save. So if it does crash, then I don't have to travel to the world again, and I'll often close it down and then reopen so that I've got all the memory that could be available to the game. When I saved after she arrived in this world, it got an error, and it keeps getting that error. Therefore, it has become unplayable. If I can't save in the world, I can't really use the world at the moment. My first thought was panic. I have now got to the point where I can no longer continue the MacDuff story, and possibly not Oscar's 10 years either. But then I realised it's just the Sims that I need. I thought about using an Transporter mod to pack them all up and move them off to another world. But then I realised that wouldn't work for me because there's too many family connections and friendships between all of these Sims and Sims in other worlds. So Porter mod would keep the connections within this world, but they would be severed for the Sims in the other worlds. So Isabel got another job. She's got to move 88 Sims out of this world to other places in the game. The other issue I have with using Porter mod to move a lot of Sims from a whole town like this is when they end up in the new world. They end up in all sorts of houses, and I've got to move them all around. Takes ages, and their household inventories usually end up in a pet's inventory or a toddler's inventory, or they just get completely messed up and they just get left behind in some other household's inventory. So I decided not to use Porter mod. There are 88 Sims in this world, and when I say 88 Sims in the world, I mean they are 88 Sims that I have or will be playing with. It doesn't include any other Sims that the game might have added. So I had a bit of a think, and I thought that what I'll do is I'll move them out. A lot of the worlds in this game are extremely overpopulated and almost impossible to play in at the moment. So I'll need to add several worlds that have not been used in this game before and move Sims into those worlds from overpopulated worlds. And it's very difficult to save in those worlds, but it didn't matter how many Sims I took out of this world, I still couldn't save it. So I had to just remove it from the game, and I will be replacing it. I'm currently setting up a new version of it in another game, which I will place into this big game eventually. So Dark Harbour will continue to be in the game. I just don't know what Sims I'm going to have in there because all of these Sims are moving out. And I've moved them out to 2 other worlds: Cornucopia, the world made by Shaolua, and Glenvale City, made by Reflong 7. I have added most of the buildings to this world. There were some there, but I've added most of what is in the world. And I've done that for most of the new worlds that I'm adding because I tend to prefer worlds that are almost totally empty when I choose a new world for this game. When I'm moving whole households from one world to another, I like to take their houses with them. The thing I do is I save the houses that they live in to my library, because that way when I get them to the new world that they're going to move to, I just place their house and all their stuff is there. But I can't save the game. Well, this world is the currently open world. So Isabel heads back home to Moonfall Island and shares the news of the troubles she's found when looking for little Gregg Craig's parents. And to make matters worse, of course, she didn't even find them there. And she complained about the extra work that she's going to have to do now. And Eric thinks about it and he knows there's still friends of his stuck in the boarding school on Chocolate Cake Island. And he gets Oscar and Susanne to agree to accompany him on a trip to that boarding school where they have all lived for a large part of their young lives. And they set off for Chocolate Cake Island together with no young adults with them, just the two teens and a child. Once they arrive at Chocolate Cake Island and go to the boarding school, they will have some nannies there to take care of them if necessary. Initially they land at the base camp and then they have to move all those pictures on the walls and on the ground. That was when one of the Sims was trying to work really hard to get to the top of the street art skill, and her dog is still in Chocolate Cake Island, so it's going to have to be returned to her. Her name's Shirley and she's living in Lucky Palms. There's a few other Sims that come from Lucky Palms at the boarding school at the moment as well, so they will eventually be returned to their homes and the dog can go back there with them. Because of all the memory problems I was having in Chocolate Cake Island before I bulldozed that huge garden, there is only one household in this world with Sims living in it, so the world is very empty right now. Plenty of room to move other Sims to it eventually if necessary. The three travellers moved to the boarding school and they found Cricket Irwin from Lucky Palms sitting at one of the tables working with her computer. The place seemed to be deserted, but Carly Winterbottom soon walked in. She's one of the nannies. She lives here with her husband and son. And here's Oscar. He's finally made it. Last time he was here, he was still a little child. This is where he was brought when he lost his family. Eloise travelled to Irwin and picked him up. He was crying in the snow at the graves of his parents when she found him. That's Mara Nix talking with Francesco Winterbottom. Francesco's still a child. He'll probably have to age up soon, I think. Suzanne's sitting down chatting with her imaginary friend. Another one of the nannies is just walking in. That is Mina Fields, and her brother is married to one of Patience's daughters. So although she's not exactly related to Eric, she is part of the family because Eric's grandmother is Patience. Now we'll just have a quick look around the boarding school so you know how it's made up. It's got 5 levels above ground and 4 below, although one of the levels above ground is just the foundation and there's nothing there. There's plenty for children to do here in the yard, swings and sandboxes and things. Looks like somebody's been sculpting it. Or there's all of the gnomes. I guess I'll have to stay here at the boarding school. I'm sure I'll move Sims in here again one day. Now this is the rooftop. It's just got a few things up there. There's plenty of room for me to add more things if I want to. It's not really one of the levels, but it's useful. And then the top level, this is level 5 of the building. It's got lots of skilling things for the teens and the young adults and the children too sometimes. And then there's a whole floor dedicated to toddlers. If you watched Oscar's childhood, you will have seen lots of toddlers here. But they've all gone home now, most of them aged up to child, and they've gone home to a variety of worlds. And this is the sleeping area for everybody else. The toddlers sleep upstairs with the toddler toys, but everybody else has got beds down here. And this is the main room where the birthday parties happen, and the kitchen, and they eat. And then there's this area that doesn't get a lot of use, but it's here if ever there's Sims wanting to do some exercise, working out, and this floor is pretty much empty. It's a second bottom basement. It's just got the wishing well and tree of prosperity. And this is only a small, very bottom level, and it's only here for the group science project, and that's where Oscar's working on his science skill. Meanwhile, Mina had headed off to a little park. This park came with the Katy Perry Sweet Treats stuff pack, and Bandit the dog had followed her there. I often send toddlers and children here, never thought about adults coming here as well. Looks like Bandit's met up with a stray cat. So Mina's going to sit on the seat and read with a bit of company of a puppy dog called Bandit. Bandit's owner is living in Lucky Palms, so he will be taken home to her at some point. Mina comes from Lucky Palms as well, so I guess they could both go home together but end up in two different households. Meanwhile, back at home, Riordan Mithrilin from Dragon Valley is sitting beside the outdoor fire pit, playing a computer game of some sort. He's certainly enjoying himself and totally focused on the game. Bruce Winterbottom's playing another game on the outdoor computer on the front veranda. There's a camera sitting on that computer desk as well. It was Bandit's owner, Shirley, who did all those street art things on the floor. So that's Bruce Winterbottom's wife, Carly, and their son, of course, is little Francesco, the child with the red hair that you see running around occasionally. Oh, there's some paintings on the wall. That's a street art one with the moon. And funnily enough, Eric arrived at the boarding school and went straight back to work, completing a painting that he'd been working on previously when he was here as a student. So it's good that he came back, because I don't think I've seen that painting before. And Faith MacDuff from Moonlight Falls has decided she's going to do a sculpture. And here she is working on it. She's got up to the top level room with all the skilling objects in it. Faith is due to age up in 4 days. She'll become a young adult. So we're going to take her home to Moonlight Falls. And Eric, of course, had an ulterior motive for coming here to the boarding school. He really wants to go to Moonlight Falls. There's a certain special sim who's gone home to Moonlight Falls that Eric really wants to catch up with again. It looks like Oscar's found a painting he'd like to do as well, out on the veranda. While Riordan Mithrilin played computer games on the computer, he'd moved up from the playing on his multi-tab. Susanne sat there playing her computer game on the big TV. Eric started telling a ghost story to nobody after little Francesco Winterbottom left the scene. Here comes Oscar. Susanne doesn't have huge memories of this boarding school because she was a toddler for most of the time that she was here. She did age up to child when she was here, so she does have some memories of the place. She doesn't remember much about being a toddler. What's going on? Oh, look, Francesco and Oscar having a pillow fight. Francesco was a toddler while Susanne was a toddler at this boarding school, and Oscar was a child. Eric aged up to teen just the day before Oscar arrived here as a child. Now Francesco's going to listen to Eric's ghost story. It's very dark when he tells a ghost story. Telling that ghost story put Eric into the frame of mind to do something completely different. So he headed up to the roof where there was a witch's performance arena, and he thought it would be just that thing to do, just get some practice riding his broom. He is a witch after all. He doesn't get a chance to do this in Moonfall Island. I bet that was exhilarating, especially way up on top of the roof of the tall building. It's 5 stories high, and there he was, up in the sky. Faith MacDuff still working on her sculpture. She'll have it finished soon. Meanwhile, Eric is thinking about somebody else, somebody who is no longer at the boarding school. Faith MacDuff needs to go home soon. She's going to age up to young adult in a few days, and she's got an imaginary friend in her inventory. So that imaginary friend needs to be turned real before she ages up to young adult. And when she returns home, she'll be going home to Moonlight Falls. Now, Moonlight Falls has a problem. It is extremely overpopulated and extremely difficult to save. So we won't be taking all of the Moonlight Falls residents home in one go. Meanwhile, Carly and Bruce had a moment to chat. Bruce came down to flirt with his wife, but they were interrupted, and it was time for them to go to work. So flirting had to get put aside for the moment. Cricket Irwin had something important that she needed to talk to Carly about before both Carly and Bruce spun into their work outfits. The car was waiting outside for them. They were both in the culinary career. Hopefully one of them will get that fridge that you get as a reward, but they're both only at level 1 or 2 at the moment, so it'll be a long time. I think I'll have to actually play them if I want them to get that fridge. That's the reward for becoming a celebrated 5-star chef. Well, our bandits got fleas. Of course, I never meant for either Bruce or Carly to get into the culinary career. The game did that for them when I wasn't playing this boarding school. I try to keep all of my nannies unemployed most of the time. I want them to learn skills and look after the children. Whenever I've played Bruce in the past, he's always been a gardener. I think he's probably my best gardening sim ever, and I've never had him married or having children before. He's just been in my games as the gardener. I've had him for a few years now. Carly was made new, and she was just a single sim in a few games, and then I just put them together as Oscar was just having a chat to Mina. It looks like Mina's off to work as well. It looks like she's in the music career judging by what she's wearing. Looks like all of the nannies have been sent off to jobs when they're supposed to be at home looking after children and learning skills. So Eric has finished his painting. That's good. I found some abandoned imaginary friend dolls in the household inventory, so I put 2 of them in the inventories of Faith MacDuff and Cricket Irwin. They're both townies, so they wouldn't normally have imaginary friends, but I've discovered I have great fun turning them real and then giving them massive makeovers. So that's what we're going to do next. As soon as they've found the formula for the potion to make the imaginary friend metamorphism potion. I thought there was about to be a water balloon fight starting, so I popped up here to have a look. But looks like Oscar's too tired. But Mara Nix, she's the one standing behind him. I think she still wants to play. And then Susanne came and asked Oscar to read her a bedtime story. So they left the scene and Mara just was left standing there all alone. Looks like Suzanne's got fleas. She must have caught them from the dog. Faith MacDuff found the solution to the imaginary friend becoming real problem very quickly. She got her potion and now she's chatting to her imaginary friend, who's become live but is not yet real. But he'll be real in a minute, and then I'll get Faith to make a potion that Cricket Irwin can use to make her imaginary friend real, because she's taking forever to try to find that potion. Oh no, she's got a potion, but it's not the imaginary friend metamorphism potion. After having a long think about it, Faith has just decided to offer the potion to her imaginary friend Hesper. And there he is, he's now real. He needs his makeover and a new name. And there he is, he's had his makeover and his new name is Henry MacDuff. And Cricket Irwin's imaginary friend doll is also named Hesper, and it needs to become live before she can make it real. And of course, Faith MacDuff has already made the potion for her. So she's got the imaginary friend metamorphism potion. And as Hesper sets off to find his owner, there is Henry playing computer games. Didn't take him long to get settled into his life as a real sim. And there is Cricket and Hesper. They'll have a little chat and then she'll offer Hesper the potion to become real. Looks like Faith has noticed that invisible imaginary friend standing in her way there, so she obviously doesn't think that Cricket is talking to herself. Eventually, cricket hands over the potion. These little bedrooms were made tiny for sleeping in. They weren't meant for great gatherings of Sims to have meetings in. And Hester has become real and is renamed Harry. And Harry's about to have his makeover. Later on that night, I found Harry out the back, playing with the slip and slide, getting himself all wet and having a great time, when he should have been sleeping. I guess he's only just appeared on the scene and just been made real. He probably hasn't had time to get sleepy yet. Big changes are afoot. Eric has given up. He's waited long enough. He doesn't want to wait any longer. He's very anxious to get to Moonlight Falls, and the sooner the better. So he dials up the travel agent. They'll be leaving just before dawn. The travellers will be Eric and Oscar and Susanne and Faith MacDuff and Henry MacDuff. We can't take Mara Nix with us because when I tried that, couldn't save. The game kept getting error 12. So we went back and turned down the graphics, and then we travelled without Mara, and it worked. I think turning down the graphics might have had more effect than leaving Mara behind, but I didn't really want Mara to travel this time. Before I bulldozed the farm from across the street, couldn't travel Chocolate Cake Island with any more than just the main one sim. This meant I could take Isabel home, but she couldn't take anybody with her from the boarding school. That's why everybody got left here. Here the group of travellers have arrived safely at the boarding school in Moonlight Falls. First order of business is to tidy up. Faith discovered a sculpture she'd been working on was still there waiting for her, so she got to work immediately. One of the super sleepers needed repairs, so Eric got to work on it, but eventually it was proven impossible, so had to be replaced. I didn't realise that Henry'd been to school, but he decided he could do his homework sitting on his own in the front yard while Oscar and Susanne had a chat. I don't think Susanne remembers anything about this place. I think the first boarding school she went to as a toddler would have been Chocolate Cake Island. Later that night, Henry got abducted by an alien. Somewhat later, a very confused and somewhat annoyed Henry was returned to his home, to the boarding school, by the alien. There seemed to be an unusually large number of townies running around the streets at 3 o'clock in the morning. Henry was somewhat confused and flustered when he was brought back home, and he began to wonder if those large holes he'd seen in various places around the yard might have been attracting those aliens. So he started filling one in, but it was very deep and it took him a very long time to fill it in. He decided he wouldn't worry about any of the other ones. He'd just leave them there and see what happens. Hopefully he won't get abducted again. He sat in the sand pit for a while until he realised that it was that all-in-one bathroom that needed repairing that was being so annoying. So he decided he'd repair that. And if he thought filling in that hole took a long time, he was in for a big surprise when he tried to repair this bathroom. It seemed to take him forever. But then he didn't have any handiness skill, and he did learn a bit in the process, so he helped himself just a little bit by spending such a long time trying to repair that pesky bathroom. He felt good finally having a skill, and he'd heard about that tree of prosperity. He just had to eat a fruit, and he would get a brand new skill. So he thought he'd have a go and see what happened, and he did get a skill. He got 1 point of his guitar skill. Wow, now he's going to have to get himself a guitar somehow. He's not too sure how to go about that yet. It was almost time for the sun to come up, and Eric was outside playing with his magic when he got two visitors. It was Wilhelmina Wolf and her big brother Waylon. Now Waylon had heard lots about Eric from his sister Wilhelmina, and he wanted to go and check out this chap that was making such a huge impression on Wilhelmina. So Waylon had a very firm chat with this young Eric. They soon became friends, which was a good move if they were going to become part of one another's family at some point, possibly in the future, maybe. Depends on how things go with Eric and Wilhelmina. She had plenty to say in the conversation as well, of course, but she really wanted Waylon to just go. She wanted to chat with Eric on her own. She hadn't seen Eric for such a long time. She really missed him, and Eric had missed her too. And the hope of seeing Wilhelmina again was why he'd been so keen to come to this boarding school right now. And whatever it was that Eric had to say for himself seemed to have made a favourable impression on Waylon, because he decided he would just leave the young couple to it and left the scene. And of course, as soon as Waylon was safely out of the way, quite a bit of flirting happened. And Eric is feeling eternally faithful. And here come some flowers. Oh, and she likes them. She likes Eric more. A kiss. I wonder if that counts as a first kiss. Probably not. It was just a bit of a spur of the moment, I think. They're both teens. They plan on getting to know each other much better while they remain teens, so that when they're young adults, they can then decide if they want to spend lots more time together. Maybe Eric will end up back in Moonlight Falls permanently, or maybe the pair of them will end up in some other world. Only time will tell. But while he is spending some time in Moonlight Falls right now, Eric thinks he should take the time to get to know her family better. Soon everybody had to rush off to school, and the next day there was birthday parties. It was time for Faith to age up to young adult. Her imaginary friend Maid Real had to age up as well, because they both aged up to young adult at the same time. So they each had a cake, and everybody in the boarding school enjoyed the cake. Here she goes. Happy birthday, Miss Faith. She seems to be quite proud of her new look. I think Oscar and Eric and Susanne have enjoyed their little visit to the two boarding schools. Well, actually, Oscar hasn't ever stayed here. He's visited a few times, and Susanne hasn't stayed here either. It's only Eric and Faith have previously been here as students, but the other three have not. And now it's time for Henry. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you have enjoyed it, please give it a like, and thank you to everybody who has subscribed. And if you'd like to see more videos and you haven't subscribed yet, well then it might be a good idea to subscribe. I try to get a video up every couple of weeks, but sometimes I take a little bit longer. So, once this birthday party is over, the three travellers are going home, and Faith and Henry will end up in their own home in Moonlight Falls. But Eric will dial up the travel agent shortly, and he and Oscar and Susanne will return to Moonfall Island, which is where we will find them at the beginning of the next episode. So bye-bye for now. Thank you for watching, and happy simming.